I hope that you find what we want to share with you today useful and something that you'll be able to take back and work with us going forward on how we can move forward with some of the items. Our items that we have here today fall under public safety, which is around the CSX Railroad, economic development in reference to the marked train stop at the East Gate in Cottage City, and sediment management for the Anacostia River, and then community development and the significance of municipalities, as specifically it relates to homelessness and then municipal identity and authority. And we'll want to see how you can help us with that. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to do some introductions of people that we have here in the room. Then we're going to go eat. And after a few minutes, when you've gathered your food and everything like that, we'll start the program and try to get you out of here as soon as possible. So I hope you enjoy yourself, but at the same time, I'm sure we want to get back to what we need to do. So first, and if you could hold your applause, I'd appreciate, I'm going to do elected officials. If you could just stand when I call your name and stay standing until I finish, and then we can applaud you at the end of that. So we have Jimmy Tylo, our current delegate, 47th District. They can't help themselves. We've got Linda Mendoza, which is our council member here in Como Manor. It's okay, you can go ahead and clap, y'all can't help yourself. We got Ann Young, commissioner from Cottage City. I got Tiffany Hennon, who is the representative for Congressman Brown. Thank you. We have Natasha Davis, who is the chair commissioner for Cottage City. Malcolm Augustine, who is Senator State-elect for the 47th District. We have Wanika Fisher, who is delegate-elect for 47B. We have Julianne Ivy, who is delegate-elect for 47A. We have Donna Davis, who is from the Chesapeake Bay Trust. And we have Jolene Ivy, who is Council-elect District 5. I also want to note, which I think is also important here, that we do have from Prince George's Economic Development Corporation, Heather Tamili and David Lewis. We have Hunter Pierce from HCD? Pickles? Oh, Pickles from HDCD. And we have Margaret Hubbard from Eco City Farms. And Jeff Johnson, who is co-president of the, Landover Hills or Landover Knolls Association. Okay, so thank you all so much. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, you just decided not to sign in because this was your room. Oh. There are only a few people left. I know. So we got Diana first. I got Diana Fennell, for which room you are in, the delegate for the District 47A. Thank you. And we have some of our volunteers here these are our volleyball volunteers. They come and they do whatever we can for them. We got Maria there, who's the lead, and they're always here to help us, and they play volleyball on Friday nights. And so they're back there as well. And I also want to thank our cook, Brandon, who is really a special opportunity we have here. He actually works at the Gaylord as a cook and a chef, and his mother is Renee Watts. So we thank him so much for cooking for us this evening. We really are pleased to have that. And I just really want to overthank my staff right now, Renee and Kayla and Christian and Mike and Jerome and everybody. They have just done a wonderful job in actually helping put this on and put this together. So please give them a strong welcome for what they do. We're starting with public safety, and I would like to ask Commissioner Wheatley can come up and give us a start up on that conversation.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for coming out tonight. I know the weather is a little challenging, but we appreciate you coming out and participating, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Wanda Wheatley. I am a commissioner in the town of Cottage City, as our mayor, Sadara Barrow, said. Tonight I'll be speaking on public safety. And what is public safety? Public safety is the function of governments which ensures the protection of citizens, persons in their community, organizations, and institutions against threats to their well-being and to the prosperity of their communities. And tonight, we want to discuss public safety as it relates to the CSX Railroad that runs through the port towns and gateway communities and strongly affects the residents and workers in our community. Mrs. Denise Hammer, a resident of Cottage City, will provide an overview of our concerns and how you as our legislators can help us. Please welcome Ms. Denise Hammer.
Hello, everyone. It's great to see everyone this evening. It's a great opportunity for us, for me to come on behalf of the community that's been working on this issue for the last several months. How many of us remember when we had the CX train went right through our neighborhood before the overpass? Oh, you do remember that? Well, back then, our train stopped traffic dozens of times a day, disrupting commuters, residents, causing even many of the high schoolers to be late. And also ambulances and our fire trucks to be late for their appointments. It was the Port Towns community that led the In the Pain, Move the Train campaign to advocate for an overpass to be built to take the train off the road. Back then, many people, including our elected officials, said it could never be done. It was too expensive, it was not a priority, blah, blah, blah. Well, we proved them wrong, and about 10 years after that, or 15, however you count it, we had a $73 million overpass was built, and now the trains go over, not under. So now we're back here to discuss the train and some new issues that affect our communities. So a broad-based coalition representing Cottage City, Edmonston, Mount Rainier, Brentwood, North Brentwood, and Comer Manor. We've been meeting to discuss our shared experiences and problems with the railroad, and we need the help of the state legislature. Residents in all the towns share complaints about the high speed, the noise, the pedestrian trespassing, as well as the potential health and safety risk associated with this increased train traffic that runs through our community. So this is where the train runs right through all of our communities. So we're here to address some of the issues. For example, in Cottage City, we have 30 homes where its property line border the train tracks, and another 15 homes that are directly impacted by the train. So these are the issues that have risen to the top as we've talked to our neighbors in our communities. Across the country, we have seen a rise in the number of freight derailments and fatalities due to speed, unsafe tracks, pedestrian and vehicles being hit on the tracks. We have seen toxins spill into our waterways in our communities. And 2 years ago, there was a huge derailment at the Rhode Island Metro that caused major disruptions with the track. Fortunately, it did not affect any human lives. But if that train would have derailed 3 miles up, which would have been in the Cottage City, Mount Rainier area, it would have wiped out homes along Cottage Terrace and caused damage as well as possibly the loss of life, since so many seniors live along that corridor of Cottage Terrace. In our Port Towns community, we're asking ourselves, how do we protect ourselves from derailments? Our train runs 2 to 5 times an hour at high speeds and also all night. In our Port Towns community, many cross the tracks, trespassing and putting themselves and others in danger. We think it is time that a fence is built to curtail trespassing along the route. It's also time for us to look at the speed of these trains running through our community and in these highly populated residential neighborhoods. We also think it's time to stop the late night horn blowing and the idling on the tracks, which affects the health of our residents and the quality of life, especially during the evening and all night. It's also time for us to know what's in these trains that go through our community. We are sure that there are hazardous materials that go right through the port towns. It is also time to institute an emergency and a safety plan in case of a derailment. These are not new threats, but due to the increased train traffic, the higher speeds, the increased size and weight of these trains, and the transport of potentially toxic cargo, and increased derailments across the country, we in the port towns believe this is a time now to address the issues. So what are we asking our legislators for? Number one, introduce legislation that addresses the health and safety of residents that live in close proximity to train tracks, whether it's a two-person crew to curtailing the toxic cargoes. Reduce the speed of the trains when they enter these highly populated residential neighborhoods. Reduce access to trespassing along the tracks and provide resources for the municipalities to work with the CSX to install fencing in these highly populated neighborhoods. Assist us in forming a statewide coalition to address railroad safety in all of our Maryland communities. And finally, to ensure a level of respect from CSX and our other freight carriers for those of us that live and work along the railroad lines. For example, right now, CSX is doing major maintenance on the tracks in our community all night with lights and noise, heavy equipment, and no one, to our knowledge, was notified. Our elected officials or our homeowners were notified of this major maintenance on the tracks where they're replacing the tracks. We have several residents and elected officials who have been working on this throughout the last few months. If you've been one of us who've been meeting, could you just stand up for a minute? Yeah. Stand up, Kurt. If you have any questions about what we've been talking about tonight, I ask you to reach out to us. We also ask you to attend our next community meeting, which is November 29th at 6:30 here in Colmer Manor, where we'll be dealing with the health impacts and educating ourselves more with Professor Wilson from the University of Maryland. We also have a meeting on November 30th at 1 o'clock with the CSX representative, Brian Hammock, that will be hearing some of our issues. So we encourage you to come out to both of those meetings. You can talk to me afterwards about this. We look forward to working with all of you on these issues that pose what we think are a significant health and safety threat to our neighborhood and our businesses. We can do this. We're able to get that railroad overpass, so we believe we can solve these serious issues that affect us today. Thank you for your attention, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you so much. Let's give her another round of applause for that passion. And in talking about the trains, this is not on the agenda. I'm just going to throw it out here real quick because just today is when the Meglev report came out. I believe it was today. And every route on the Meglev comes through Colmer Manor. And the conversations that we've had so far, and I really want you guys to have our back, is that the Meglev is planned to come underneath landfills. We already know there's a methane gas problem from the landfills left over, and if they're going to come through here, we would like to have the landfills removed before they do something like that. So just have our back on that one, please. Moving on to economic development. So from a policy perspective, economic development can be defined as efforts that seek to improve economic well-being and quality of life for a community by creating and or retaining jobs and supporting or growing income and the tax base. So we're now going to have Councilmember Jackson, Commissioner Davis, and Councilmember Mendoza, who will come up and discuss some specific things that we think will be able to impact and help us with our economic development. Commissioner Davis.
Good evening. Port Town Sector Plan and Sector Map Amendment, October 2019. October 2009. I just want to know who in the room was here and around when we did the sector plan. All right, thank you. The approval Port Town Sector Plan and Sector Map Amendment dated October 2009 is our roadmap to this economic development, the Port Towns. In the basic vision, the document stated, the vision for the Port Towns are Bladensburg, Comer Manor, Carter City, and Evanston. It is to achieve green, healthy, and a pedestrian-friendly community, and destined that celebrates, build up on the area criteria, structure, location, industrial building, historical, residential, and environmental assets. Throughout the document, a theme was related to an anchor to economic development within the port towns. One of the anchors is to establish the MARC train stop in Carter City and Mount Rainier. Chair Davis will provide you with the vision and potential for the stop. Thank you.
Again, I am Chair Davis, Commissioner over in Cottage City, and I'm going to be speaking about the MARC train. Tonight seems to be tonight about trains, so I'm going to talk more about the MARC train. As they mentioned about the Portstown sector plan, in the Portstown sector plan, Bladensburg Road Gateway Main Street character area, page 28, list of goals is to develop a new MARC train station surrounded by mixed-use development. So policy 1 is to establish Bladensburg Road as a mixed-use urban boulevard. And one of the strategies is to encourage redevelopment of the Eastgate property in Cottage City, as well as a mixed-use development orientated toward a possible future MARC rail station in this location. Policy 2 is incorporate potential transit improvements. And one of the strategies for this policy is to consider a future potential MARC rail station in Cottage City at the western end of the corridor, with pedestrian bridges across the railroad tracks. Support this station with a mixed-use development and a public green surrounding the station. In the transit element section on page 6, the goal is to plan an integrated bus transit and eventually FGT with an additional MARC station in Cottage City close to the western gateway of the Bladensburg corridor that provide efficient and user-friendly transit that will supplement and within the sector plan area and the private automobile as a mobility option. The document also further states for clarity the closest MARC station that could be used by the sector plan, area residents, workers, and visitors in the Riverdale Park Station, located no more than 2.5 miles north of the sector plan area. It is clear that NMC-PPC concluded that a MARC station in that area will be powerful seed for the economic development, including new housing and mixed-use development. Furthermore, this MARC station will be directly across from the Artists on the Track studio in Mount Rainier. This stop will bring all the districts to some deserved, these artists to some deserved attention. Beyond that, with the population in Northeast DC, Portstown, and the Gateways Art District, including the new housing development and planned development on Rhode Island Avenue, we have a great opportunity to minimize rush hour traffic on Bladensburg Road and as well as Rhode Island. This MARC station will create a significant opportunity in the port towns and gateway area, economically, environmentally, as well as socially. We ask that you take this serious consideration funding the MARC station for the development in Cottage City. We expect this stop to be a catalyst for future development. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Councilmember Melinda Mendoza from the town of Comer Manor. Thank you. Welcome. So I'm going to be talking about sediment management of the Anacostia River. Clearly, the Anacostia River is the primary gem of the port towns. The health and appearance of the river is important to development and economic growth in the community. It is also clear that during low tide, which sometimes consumes half the daylight hours, the river can look dead and very uninviting. During high tide, it can be a beautiful sight to see. How do we maintain water in the river during low tide? The Port Town Sector Plan says a revitalized, rehabilitated, and more accessible Anacostia waterfront is closely linked to surrounding communities and to an improved and expanded network of public open spaces and trails. We recently received a notice from Bayland Consultant and Designs, Inc., stating the Prince George's County Department of Parks and Recreation intends to improve waterway depth by mechanically or hydraulically dredged 950 linear feet and of material from the Bladensburg Waterfront Park within the previously permitted and dredged area. The map accompanying this letter shows an area just inside the pedestrian bridge to the boathouse building at the Bladensburg Waterfront Park. We appreciate the continuing efforts to dredge in the BWP area, but wonder if there is something else that can be done to reduce the sediment coming into the park area in the first place. According to the Remedial Investigation Work Plan, Anacostia River Sediment Project of Washington, D.C., the Anacostia River drains an area of approximately 176 square miles, which is 456 square kilometers, in Montgomery and Prince George's counties, in Maryland and Washington, D.C. Clearly, stormwater management regulations and low-impact development requirements hope to reduce sediment as well as toxins from entering the river. However, in a built environment as old as ours, these measures will take years before we experience an impact at the BWP. What can be done to preserve the Anacostia as a vibrant waterfront for recreation and economic development? In addition to the continued dredging, we ask you mandate a study with recommendations that answers the specific questions. How do we maintain water in the river during low tide? We know that there are several organizations, including our partners at the Anacostia Watershed Society, doing great work to protect and repair the Anacostia, and we support those efforts. These efforts are very important. In addition to working with them, we, the Port Towns, we ask you mandate a study with recommendations that answers these specific questions. How do we maintain water in the river during low tide? Perhaps dredging upstream at various intervals will help reduce sediment. Perhaps some kind of sediment collectors can be installed to collect sediment before it reaches the Anacostia at Bladensburg. We are not experts, so we ask you to mandate a study with recommendations that answers these specific questions. This project funded has the promise to grow the Port Towns and Prince George's economy, create new jobs, and improve the quality of life for many. We really look forward to your positive response to this request. Thank you all so very much.
All right, let's give her another round of applause. River, river, river. Okay, so we're moving on to our next area, or our last actually area, which is community development and significance of municipalities. Per Wikipedia, community development is a process where community members come together to take collective action and generate solutions to common problems. It is a broad term to the practice of civic leaders, activists, involved citizens, and professionals to improve various aspects of our community. Typically aiming to build stronger and more resilient local communities. Community development, unlike economic development, involves all aspects of life associated with an improved quality of life. For us, municipalities, we need clear communications and participation with county, state, and utilities to allow for us to participate and provide leadership in all aspects of the community development. We want to support, in general, some of those priorities from Maryland Municipal League, which is associated directly with our utilities, state and agencies communicating with us as municipalities prior to actually taking action on certain movements and including us in those decision makings. We particularly would like for you to clearly continue to work with our utilities. They are doing a much better job in communicating with us, but sometimes after the fact. The small cell towers, we need to know more about what's happening there, and land banking. So we would like to support, we would look forward to your support and on these items as presented by Maryland Municipal League. And I thank you so much. So one of our first areas that we want to focus on for our homelessness and our home-deprived population, which is a part of our community development, is going to be Commissioner Young, Cottage City.
Hello. It's nice to see everybody. I have to talk about something that's sort of sad. I think probably sooner or later homelessness touches most of us as individuals. For me, it first happened when the daughter of a minister at the church I grew up in, and for whom I babysat when she was still a kid, showed up in Nashville, Tennessee, where I then lived, homeless, using drugs and too much alcohol. My sister and I ultimately found housing for her as well as employment options, and I managed to get her into a rehab program some distance away from her sweet but bad influence boyfriend. Then in Cottage City, and her life did improve. She ended up working in a hospital cafeteria. Then in Cottage City, I used to see the small Indian woman, Indian from India, walking down the street, but she would always walk away when you try to talk to her. Then this past summer, we heard that she had died, homeless, under a bridge in Bladensburg. Acting Chief Miltenberger learned that she had been brought here when she was much younger as a slave, and had then, when this came out, had been placed in a home in Cottage City, which she then later left. She may have had some dementia. These are very sad stories. I also hear from TV and news and Mayor Barrow that there are homeless youth who are not on drugs, but just without a place to live through no fault of their own. And also sad, especially so given their young age. And then, of course, especially at this time of year, we observe that there are many veterans who are homeless. So we in the Port Towns would like for this issue and the reality of homelessness in our area to be addressed with more focus. We have no shelter or other housing opportunities that we know of in the Port Towns or the nearby area. And the needs of different people who may be homeless will be different depending on their circumstances. We want this to be recognized and focused on, and for action to be taken on this reality. As for what is known, the Maryland Interagency Council on Homelessness has studied the situation in the state and has information that can be obtained from their website, which you can find by Googling Maryland Interagency Council on Homelessness. The mandate of the council, which was created in 2014, includes coordinating state policy recommendations and working relationships among state, local, and nonprofit agencies concerning efforts to remedy and prevent homelessness across the state, disseminating information, coordinating data sharing, and making recommendations to the state legislature, analyzing the need for and availability of affordable and accessible housing resources and recommending changes to that, and then solicit input from advocacy, business, and faith communities, as well as from consumers regarding policy and program development. The council is overseen and directed by the legislature's Joint Committee on Ending Homelessness, and Senator Victor Ramirez is on that now. Just a few statistics. The council found that from 2013 to 2017, the number of homeless in Prince George's County decreased actually from 686 to 525. They do this by having employees and volunteers go out on a winter night and count how many homeless people they find in places that are known. It tends to produce undercounts, but still that's the best method that they have at this point. PIT stands for Point in Time Survey. Total number of homeless veterans declined from 25 to 21, so that's has improved. And the chronically homeless in the county went down from 76 to 25 in 2015, but back up to 35 in 2017. And I don't think they have the 2018 figures yet. This in comparison to PIT figures close to 3,000 in Baltimore and 919 down to 609 in Baltimore County. And then around 1,000 in Montgomery County down to 894. So we in Prince George's County do have lower figures, though they are significant and could be underreported since the PIT counts, as I said, do sometimes miss people. Also, and this is more important, the figures for 2018 and 2019 for funding the homeless programs show that funding for Prince George's County decreased from $752,628 to $713,577, a decrease of almost $40,000, about 5%. Also, the county has resources on homelessness, including a homeless hotline phone number. It's 1-888-731-0999. I'm not going to go into every bit of information that there is. There's a lot out there. But in talking with each other, some in the port towns feel that needs here are not really being met appropriate to the individual circumstances of different individuals, including the youth. And we would like for the interagency council to focus, and the state to focus more closely, and the county, I should say, to focus more closely on the unique needs of each different type of homeless person. In your little folder, the ask for homelessness speaks of establishing leadership to coordinate, communicate, and educate on all homeless resources available, and budget funding for temporary housing in Prince George's County. More specifically, we would ask that the legislature increase our county's funding for addressing homelessness and the needs of the homeless to numbers from prior years, or preferably more. We would ask that the legislature's Joint Committee on Ending Homelessness direct the Maryland Interagency Council on Homelessness to focus in the coming year on coming up with innovative implementation plans for temporary housing options that are specifically relevant to specific community needs, and provide for increased community engagement in such implementation. 3, that the legislature provide funding for this implementation of temporary housing options that are specifically relevant to the specific community needs, and include increased community funding for increased community engagement in such implementation. We recognize that the county's 10-year plan for ending homelessness has included in its goals programming for special populations and shifting from short-term shelter to longer-term housing, but we would still ask for more funding for our goal of considering individual area needs, especially since there obviously is a shortage when one of our people dies under a bridge. And we see people under bridges elsewhere. Finally, we would ask that the legislature or the Senate President appoint our new Senator Malcolm Augustine to replace his predecessor, Victor Ramirez, on the Joint Committee for Ending Homelessness, and which provides direction to the Interagency Council so that he can better assure that the needs of our county and our particular district and area with respect to homelessness are effectively addressed. And he has said that he is willing to fill those shoes if asked. So I do have copies of information if anyone wants any copies. You can Google these various entities if you want to get more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. Appreciate all of that work you put into that. Let's give her another hand. I do want to point out in terms of the numbers that they're collecting, as you look at the screen, you'll see someone without reliable shelter is considered homeless. So it's not just the places you go where people are in shelters and so forth and churches that might be hanging out. It's somebody sleeping on somebody else's couch. And so we need a comprehensive opportunity. I also mentioned that there was a wonderful website that I ran across when we were working on this, and it's www.understandinghomelessness.com. And these quotes are here because that's where I got that this statement from. So please go out on that website. It provides options for business owners, individuals, teachers, other groups who want, governments who want to do something in homelessness in a particular area. So I thought it was a wonderful website to recommend to everybody to look at. So our final topic that we're going to have here tonight is about our zip code. Wind up having a conversation in Maryland Black Mayors meeting, and somebody brought up zip codes and the problems that our zip code causes for us, and it was rampant story from everyone. Everybody is facing this issue in terms of our zip code. A strong part of our community development is our identity. What builds community involvement is an enthusiasm to this identity. An example to the opposite, but quite compelling, is the Washington Redskins. We and everyone else identify them to be in Washington, D.C. Now, we all know that the Washington Redskins don't play in D.C. and they don't practice in D.C. But by building the identity that they are the Washington Redskins, and that is what was the intention, that's how we identify. So when you call me Brentwood, which is what my deed says, which is what everything will say if I don't explicitly say no Como Manor, then that is who we are. I go to do a conversation with the fourth graders every year at Roger Heights. And I asked them the question, how many of you live in Como Manor? I get like 2 hands. How many of you live in Cottage City? I get 2 hands. How many of you live in Edmonston? I get 2 hands. How many of you live in Brentwood? And the whole class raises their hand. That means that we're not creating community. We're not providing identity. These people don't know they live in Como Manor. Right now, I had, just recently, a young lady came to see me. She had gone to see Mayor Lopez. She wanted to be in Brentwood. So she bought a house in Brentwood. She ran over to Mayor Lopez and she said, Mayor Lopez, I just bought a house in Brentwood. And so Mayor Lopez looked it up and she said, no, you bought a house in Como Manor. So fortunately, she was happy enough as that being a positive item for her as well. So at this point, we look at this. Edmonston's addresses are Hyattsville. Como Manor and Cottage City's addresses is Brentwood, and North Brentwood is Brentwood. We have very few locations. Now, Bladensburg is blessed because Bladensburg is mostly blessed with their own post office. Mount Rainier has their own post office. But our addresses that are being presented to the public are post office addresses, and therefore lacking in our ability to actually bring our community together. And even more importantly, on our tax forms, we enter, it asks us, what's your municipality? On your, if it's a company, the work tax form, it says, what, are you in a municipality? You enter in what municipality you're in. So if people don't know, and trust me, they don't know, that they actually live in municipalities, especially if you're in a large area, their tax dollars may be going to someone else's municipality. We can't control that unless and they know that, which means it needs to be on their deed. Now, one thing that I found out that was very compelling to me, if you look at this screen, and I don't know how well you guys can see what's on this screen. I don't know if I can increase it. But one is the left side is the Maryland, Maryland SDOT website, and on the right is the property tax website. So in both cases, you'll see owner, it says owner name and mailing address. My mailing address listed on here on both websites is Como Manor. Interesting. The premise address, on one side it says premise, the other one says location of property, it says Brentwood. So our deeds are being taken from these records, and so our deeds, our mailing address is okay, it is Brentwood, because that is where things get mailed to. But our actual location is Como Manor. So, so this is backwards. I think that it's a really big deal to get it corrected, particularly because of the implications for property taxes and income state taxes when people don't know where they live. But you know, on the big side of it, from a community development side, it will make our life so much easier. We just instituted a parking permit program here where your address on your registration and your driver's license has to say Como Manor. It has been one of the most eye-opening experiences as we take people down this road. It's really going to be good for us because almost here, if you're going to have a car here, you're going to have to know that you live in Como Manor. So going down this road, we're really learning how big this issue is. And as we talk to other towns in the county, it's a big problem. One last story I'll tell you real quick, and that was a few years ago. We were on a fundraiser, and there was a news reporter there and the mayor of Hyattsville at the time. And he said, I'm the mayor of Hyattsville. And the news reporter said, oh, I'm so sorry. And so the mayor said, well, why? What? He says, all of those incidences and situations that are happening in Hyattsville all the time. Well, we all know most of the county is called Hyattsville. Can you imagine how Hyattsville can't be Hyattsville? Their borders are not understood. How can they really bring forth the community together to know that they're Hyattsville when we're calling everything Hyattsville? Things are not even close to Hyattsville. So we're asking this today. Our ask is that we pass legislation that requires the state for which we are incorporated, because we are incorporated in the state of Maryland, and our county use our municipal name on all documents referring to the location for which we actually live. Thank you. So that concludes the details of our particulars, and so I would like for all of the asks to come up, and we're going to summarize what our asks are and then open up for any questions that you might have. Come on. Commissioner, come on. I was going to ask you to do your ask. It's a summary. I'll just summarize the asks for you. So the public safety is the CSX Railroad. We're asking for legislation that address the health and safety for people close to the train tracks, reduce the speed of the train near highly populated residential neighborhoods, reduce access to trespassing along the tracks, assist us in forming a statewide coalition to address railroad safety in Maryland, and compel CSX and other freight carriers to respect residential areas. For economic development, we ask that you seriously consider funding the MARC train stop for redevelopment. Number 2, sediment management of the Anacostia River. Please, let's take a strong look into what does it take for us to have water in the river during low tide. In community development, we want to look at the homelessness in our area. Of course, we want to support MML and Prince George's Municipal League associations. And then we want budget for temporary housing in Prince George's County. And then also what I just spoke about is some mandate that requires that our location is used on our state and county documents. So I want to thank all of you for coming. I would like to thank all of the speakers who've come together and worked on research on this information and everything, and also say that we thank you for your attention. We really appreciate it. And if you want to say something, if anybody has any comments that they want to make, or you have any questions, please do now. Thank you.
So I just, Malcolm Augustine, State Senator-elect. I just am grateful to hear and I've taken a lot of notes. I'm new. I know that there's a lot to build on from Senator Ramirez and Delegate Fennell and Delegate Tarlow, who've been working, I'm sure, on some of these issues. And I really do look forward to working with you and with Delegate-elect Ivy and Delegate-elect Fisher and Council Member Ivy will all work together to try to address these as best we can, and particularly in the areas where we can do something about it and do our very best to do so. So I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions? Come on. While he's walking up here, I'll just remind all of you on the tables, all of our ask issues are right here. You can stick that in your pocket so you don't forget about it. You know you have that information with you. All right.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Reginald Bagley. I'm the town administrator in Brentwood, and on behalf of my mayor and council, I want to thank the Port Towns for hosting such a wonderful event. And if I may take a second and file, if they, like in trials, they file friend of the court. So if I'll file my friend of the town statement in that Council District 2 and Council District 5 are both included in Legislative District 47. So there are places where we actually do overlap, and one of those areas is at the CSX Railroad. And so the railroad issues are very important to the port towns, but they're very important to the gateway communities also, as has been mentioned. On one side of the track is Cottage City, and on the other side of the track is Brentwood. So correct, and Mount Rainier. And so the issues do impact and North Brentwood. So the issues do impact more than the port towns. They impact the gateway communities on the other side. So we would like to share the concerns concerning the gateway. Also, it has come to my attention, and I've been trying to chip this on my own, but you all may have some resources. There is actually a method where the towns can assess a fee to CSX for use of the tracks, and some people are successfully doing this, but I haven't been able to crack that. But it's out there, and that's something that I'd like to be able to work together to do. Secondly and lastly, as it relates to the zip code issue, of course you could not find any better mistake to make if you have to make a mistake, but we understand the issue. And that causes us challenges as well because we want to receive all the revenue we can get, but we want to receive ours. And what complicates it more is not just the zip code, but many of our streets have the same names. You know, and so the street names are duplicated. So the only way to really drill that down, and it'll take some time to do it, but we would have to get when our tax payments come in, we have to actually get and look at the actual house numbers because and they're often interacted. So we joined that request as well, that the differentiation take place, because the list comes out in numerical order, but the numerical order of 1, 2, 3 Main Street, Brentwood, it doesn't respect the boundary at all. It goes in actual order. So it's a complicated situation that we'd like to join you in requesting. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will let you know that while Mayor Miles wasn't able to attend this evening, she is on board also with particularly these train things. Last thing, I'll just mention to you guys, if you guys don't have this book, please get this book. It basically is the roadmap to helping us in the port towns actually get on board to where we need to go. We hope you'll be our partners in moving there, and we look forward to working with all of you. Thank you on behalf of the port towns. Good night. Oh, no, we got another. Oh, I thought, okay, I was. Sorry. Come on up, okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Monica Fisher. I'm delegate-elect from 47B, so I don't directly represent you technically in A, but I'm definitely here to be an ally and an asset to you in getting these issues done in Annapolis. And I just wanted to take a minute to publicly thank Senator Ramirez for all that he's done for our district as he leaves his term, and that I know that all of us are going to do our best to follow his footing. So I'd encourage you to email this. And I also wanted to say, this meeting's not just important, but attending those hearings in Upper Marlboro when Councilmember Ivy gives you that call, it really makes all the difference. And also coming down to Annapolis for our hearings and bills on these topics is seriously important. And I'm hoping we can build that coalition together because, you know, talking amongst ourselves is great, but we have to have the exact same amount of people in this room, in the halls in Upper Marlboro and in Annapolis to get all that we can get done for 47. So I appreciate you, and I hope you all have a good evening. Thanks.
Councilmember-elect Ivy? Oh, I thought you were when you were getting up before.
No, I was actually just letting you know that Juanita was trying to say something. But you can't give a politician a microphone and not expect me to say, at least, it's great to see everyone. I remember years ago being at one of these, but I think it was at the Crossroads. Didn't you all ever do them over there too? We did when we were building this building. Yeah. So I remember being at that one, and one thing that you all wanted was to have the, I passed the bill, I really did, but I'm trying to think what it was called.
So it was on the business district.
Business Improvement District, yes. So I got that from one of these meetings and did get it passed in Annapolis. And I know that with the list that you just gave, you've given great opportunities for your legislators to go to Annapolis and get some of this done. So, you know, I think that this is a great thing you all do, and you're having it just early enough that maybe the ones that might require a local bill hearing, you could have it done now, and if it's a statewide thing, there's plenty of time to put it in for this session. So your timing is good. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We got Delegate Fennell.
I just want to make sure you say it right. I just want to let you all know that the bill hearing is going to be December the 12th. It's going to be at 6600 Kenilworth Avenue, local bill hearing. There is time for us to get it done. We did just receive that information for the delegation. I don't know, Julian, you all received it yet, Juanica. So we do have time to do that. So look forward to working with you again. Sadava.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. What are we going to do? That's it. Delegate elect.
Hello, everyone. Can we all give Mayor Barrows a nice round of applause, please? And to the entire Port Town Council, this is really an important group. You're such an important aspect of so many different communities, and if only every resident knew just how important position you all play. So thank you so much for all that you do. This event specifically was a wonderful one, and I'm here for you in Annapolis. This whole team is 47 United, and also the county council person. She's cool as well, I would say. No, but really, we're here for you, and you know how to get in contact with us, so thank you so much. Have a great one.
I thank you all for that. There's still some food in the back if you want to eat, and we'll put some music back on, and you guys can hang out. I know. Yes, Jimmy. Listen, I'm going to tell you guys, we're not losing Jimmy. Don't get that confused. Jimmy, and he's trained, is a big deal, and he's going to hang in here with us as he's had in the past in order to work on getting that done. So, as always, Jimmy, thank you.
And let me have my Senator. Senator Ramirez, you should.
Senator.
I'll let you.
And we've been with Senator Ramirez for a long, long time now. Just a long, long time. But thank you for, as you did as delegate and senator. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Just, as I think Senator Benson, who used to represent this area, said that, serving the community, being elected is only one way to serve the community. And while, I'm not elected anymore, I, plan to be around and to be noisy. I take the leadership from Denise Hammer, who never got elected but gets things done, and continue to be advocate that, kind of serving the community is just, what we do, and being elected is just one aspect of how we serve the community. And everybody here who's volunteer serves the community, and that's what it's all about. So thank you, and keep up the good work. And by the way, I think you finally got it together in terms of having a good bunch of asks that are doable. Sometimes your asks are saying, sure, that'll be the day, and we all say here, and sometimes the asks come like after we're already in session, but I think you've actually gotten a good set of asks that actually the legislative team can actually follow up on, and I don't mean to diss some of the other years, but it was like, yeah, that'll be the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jimmy, for finishing up on a high note now. But thank you so much. I want to thank Jimmy Tarler for his service. And how does this go? Here you go. So thank you so much. I want to thank the Port Towns for allowing me to represent you for 16 years. Believe it, yeah, I know, right? That was before, I know I didn't have as many gray hairs. Have a few. Didn't have kids. Wasn't married, and but no, seriously, communities like this, groups like this, advocacy groups like this make the greatest difference. CSX crossing, the overpass. I remember Denise. I remember those T-shirts. We stood out, in front, right there on the main road, saying, this must happen, and it did. Things don't happen overnight. I don't have to tell many of you that. But if you want something, and I say this, hold your elected officials accountable, right? And that's what the elected office, as I've learned, is the people's office. It really is. We're just there as placeholders until we get things done. And if not, then we move on in life, as they say. But public service is great, and as Jimmy and as Sadara mentioned, and many of us, public service is what you make it. You don't have to have a title. You don't have to have a big group. It actually takes, if you get a few people and you really believe in something, you can make it happen. And I know one thing, and I know I'm glad that County Councilwoman-elect Jolene Ivey's there, because she knows Port Towns. And I think that it's been a while since we've had someone from inside the Beltway to sit at that chair, and I think it's going to make a difference whether we're fighting against the concrete batching plant, which I think is a terrible idea, right? It is a terrible idea. I think it's going to take Port Towns back 20, 30, 40 years back. And I think we've come a long ways, and we're trying to create economic development. We're trying to create other opportunities. But with projects like that, and we have individuals who are pushing things like that, it doesn't help. It doesn't help. And it's not just about the state level. It's about all levels of government we have to continue holding people accountable for. So I want to thank Port Towns for another successful legislative night. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me the opportunity to serve you as a delegate and as state senator. It's been a joy, and as they say, it's not goodbye so long, and I hope to see you around. Thank you so much. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, guys. Well, like I said, there's still some food back in the back there. I have truly enjoyed doing this and working with the team that I've been working with on this. I thank everybody, my volunteers, my volleyball volunteers. Let's give them another hand. Brandon, the chef, let's give him a hand. All of our staff, let's give them a hand. And I give you guys a hand for coming out in the rain and making it here and doing this. Thank you so much. Good night.